we're studying the manual for teachers, and we just okay. We've been going like a paragraph a week.
Cool.
So it hasn't been it's not very fast, but Dove and I do a Sunday morning and a Tuesday morning where we're doing the actual text, and we do 90 minutes at a time then, and we're cranking through it very slowly as well.
Nice.
And
I'm going through the text again myself. I'm doing the the purple book that came out a few.
Book?
Yeah. So I'm doing that right now for the first time, the purple book, and I'm going through it very meticulously, very slowly. I'm taking my time with it and really enjoying it, I have to say, and the lessons again as well. So, which is, I don't even know how many times I've been through the lessons, but yeah. So, and I'm really enjoying what's the the reviews we're on right now. I love the reviews when they go. It's just great.
I've been making videos for the reviews, so that it's like a little a YouTube video, and it's just music with words. So you just read the words, listen to music, and
cool.
I love them. I've been putting out one every day. I'm just finishing up the one for today that I'll put out for tomorrow.
I would love a link to that so I can look at that, Lynn. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. Lynn has been watching them also. So yeah, it's really we just got our YouTube channel just like a couple of weeks ago, and so have been doing like videoing this, and then other things, people doing interviews of different people and stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's nice to have it available and for people to listen to or look at.
Sure.
Who is in the waiting room? Dee is in the waiting room. Where is Dove? I bet. Let me let me send him another link. Because sometimes, I don't know if you know that his wife Suzanne passed.
I do not. I've been out of the loop as far as online. I've still been, of course, studying the course and practicing it to the best of my ability. But I'm sorry to hear that about Dove's wife. Damn. Yeah. How long ago?
Just it's been about a week and a half, 2 weeks.
Oh wow.
It was on my birthday. What am I saying? I know how long ago it was, on the 9th.
Okay.
So yeah. So it's been very interesting and good to see how someone who's been a long-term student of the course and who has all these years of study and lessons under their belt and teachings under the belt, to see how they respond in a situation where their life partner is no longer with them. It's just really been impressive and amazing, and I'm going to give him a call.
I find that very easy to believe about Dove, that he's handling it very well, because I've been nothing but impressed with Dove throughout all these years.
Oh, I know it. It really is amazing. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time chit-chatting here. I'm going to go ahead and do what I do here is I'm going to put the text that we're reading in the room so that we can all see it. And there, can you see that now on your screens? You might. Okay. So what we do is that we take turns reading, and then as maybe read the paragraph, and then everybody has a chance to talk about what their experience was, or what they experience with the paragraph, with the words that are being said, the concepts. How does this work in my life? Does this, is this something I never heard of before? Because that's been my experiences just about every week. It's like, oh my God, when did I read this? How many times ago have I read this? And I've just never really heard that before. So it's a chance to explore and experience the deep dive of A Course in Miracles. So would anybody like to read? We're on paragraph 5 of the development of trust. And last week we talked to some great extent with the period of sorting out. And so this week we are on the period of relinquishment. And so if anyone would like to read, I am going to mute my mic and give Dove a call and see if he may have forgotten us. I'll be right back. Who said they were going to read? You have to mute your mic.
Do you want to read? Do you want us to read while you're calling?
Yes.
Or wait for you?
No, just go ahead
okay.
and read and just get started talking
Okay.
about what it is that you think about what you're reading. So you want to read?
Okay, I'll do the first one.
All right. Karine, is that
Karine, yes. Thank you.
Yes, okay. All right, thank you, Karine. All right.
The third stage through which the teacher of God must go can be called a period of relinquishment. If this is interpreted as giving up the desirable, it will engender enormous conflict. Few teachers of God escape this distress entirely. There is, however, no point in sorting out the valuable from the valueless unless the next obvious step is taken. Therefore, the period of overlap is apt to be one in which the teacher of God feels called upon to sacrifice his own best interests on behalf of truth. He has not realized as yet how wholly impossible such a demand would be. He can learn this only as he actually does give up the valueless. Through this, he learns that where he anticipated grief, he finds a happy lightheartedness instead. Where he thought something was asked of him, he finds a gift bestowed on him. There's a lot there.
So does anybody have any thoughts on what Karine just read? Have you had any experiences of this? Anything that you want to discuss with the group about how maybe this has happened to you, and or maybe it's never happened to you and you've never thought about it. But any thoughts anyone has are welcome right now.
For me, hi. For me, it's saying that, of course, we don't want to give up our own thoughts. They make us feel safe and secure. They're familiar. And there's going to be areas in our life that we want to like really hold on to, how we think about things and feel about things. And that the only way that we can kind of get through this is by taking this third stage and relinquishing, particularly maybe even the areas that we find sticky and hard to give up. And that's what I'd say.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry I didn't hear what you said because I was talking to Dove. He had completely forgot about this, so he'll be here in just a minute. So I hate to ask you.
Oh, that's fine. What I was saying was that basically you have to go through this third stage of relinquishment, and we all like to hang on to our own thoughts and ideas and especially in certain areas in our life where things mean so much to us, or it means so much of us to have the thoughts that we do. And until we can let them go through this relinquishment, that's the only way that we are going to be able to interpret the truth.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I guess, you know, the question always is, you know, why am I not letting this stuff go? You know, that's always been the difficulty for me, is that you know, I'm thinking that it's somehow or the other, uh, uh, it's running me instead of me running it. And I think that I want to hold on to, you know, I want to let go of the things that are hurting me, but I I don't want to let go of the things that are hurting me, because I have an investment in them. I have they seem to be something important to me. My relationships, my family, my finances, my home, all these different things that I seem to have so much of an investment in. Um, you know, it would be a lie for me to say I want to let go, because I really do want to hold on to everything. I don't want to lose anything at all. And so, you know, that's where Jesus talks to us about the idea of sacrifice. And he says, you know, that there's no sacrifice involved in this. You are not going to lose anything when you give up these things that you think you want. And even if you don't want it, I was just listening to John Mundy. He was reading his audio book, I think the most recent one, and he was talking about an elderly woman who he was counseling, and she was so upset, and she just wanted to die. She just didn't want to be in her body anymore. She just didn't want to live, you know, anymore, because everything was such a burden. And uh, you know, he says you just can't, you can't just do that, because, you know, obviously you're here for a purpose. There's something that you're doing here, you know, until you're done doing what you're doing. There's, you know, why would you uh, want to go, as long as you're holding on to any part of it? And that's, I think, the problem with death. I think, you know, that's the reason that when we leave the body, we don't just go on to, you know, heavenly, here he is, here comes stuff. We don't go on to heavenly life. We probably come back into another life, in another world, in another body, with another family, you know, in another role, and play it all over again, because we haven't decided we really want to be done with it yet. You know, we want to hold on to it. And so this relinquishment has to be, you know, when we're doing the sorting of what's valuable and what's valueless, the relinquishment has to be, I don't, this has no value to me at all. Nothing in this world has any value to me at all. And if that's the case, then when you die, when you leave your body, you know, you're longing for anything else. You're not longing to come back and have more. You're done.
I
But
think, Lynn, oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I think too, this is when you see some friendships like drop by the wayside, and it's not that the friendships you currently had were bad or no longer good for you, but you just feel like that friendship just no longer serves you at that moment. And so I think that you find yourself attracted maybe to people that and I'm not talking physically attracted, but you find yourself attracted to people that really in the past you wouldn't even give a second glance at. And there is that longing, like when a friendship kind of just starts to slowly dissolve, it's kind of like our tendency is to be like, well, I've been friends with that person for 30 years. I can't just let this go. But you just know deep in your heart, the friendship's just no longer serving you, you know?
And the love is still there. It's
Mhm.
not like you don't love that anymore. That's what's the beautiful thing about all of this, is that the love remains no matter what. You know, that's the thing that you have forever. You know, what you don't have forever is the stuff, the body, you know, all that stuff. So, and that's what's important. And so, welcome, Dove. Good to see you. And look who's here, Tom Caverly. Oh, okay. Anybody else have any thoughts about that paragraph, or any part of the, and just speak up. You don't have to
Yeah, I
raise.
just want to ask. I mean, for me, it's not anything that's conscious, like a friendship or anything like that. So it could be something also kind of unconscious, or that I'm not aware of, like old thoughts or a story in my mind about person. Because I had an experience very recently about my father, that my sister came up with a picture of something that I hadn't seen. I mean, he's been gone for 25 years already, but she discovered something that had to do with his retirement party in the 1980s. And it was such a beautiful little invitation, and it had all his characteristics because he was a gambler. So there was a picture of a horse, and there were all these descriptions about my father that were very real, and and it brought me so much joy to see that. But then I remember that that's not how I saw him at all. So I actually went back and saw that the stories I had made about him, that he was a gambler, that he was this and that. And I saw the difference between my story and that beautiful display. And it was really a big gift. It was a gift. And because I'm doing all the work and the lessons and reviewing the lessons, I think that's what helped me to really appreciate that distinction. So the relinquishment of stories of my upbringing or whatever, in my past, and seems to be the stage of relinquish the, I don't know if it fits into that period of relinquishment because it just kind of happened.
Yeah, I think what we talked about this, that you go in and out of these stages. I don't think you just go linear one, this. I think we're in this stage a little while, and then something, we shifts and we go back into, the sorting out business. And, I think we do that quite a bit, go back and forth until finally we get to a point where it's more of a habit to have to think that way rather than an effort. So then when it becomes more of a habit, then you become more and more and more uh, uh, certain of yourself. And that's what I think we're talking about, the development of trust, is coming to the point where we're so certain of ourselves. And something Bruce Rawls, who I teach with on Saturday morning, he was talking about, he was doing training for people in the Air Force. And when you first start with them, they are unconsciously incompetent, and then they learn what they're doing wrong and they become consciously incompetent, and then then they start becoming more and more consciously competent. They become consciously competent, and they come to a point where it's just the normal way that they do things. It becomes a habit, and that's what we are. When we start this, we are unconsciously incompetent, and we're working up to a point where we actually become unconsciously competent. We come to the point where we don't even have to think about it anymore. It just works for us. So, and then I think that's where we're heading, what we're moving into.
I think,
Anybody else have any thoughts?
yeah, it's interesting that what you're speaking to, it says that there is going to be this period of overlap. I find that very comforting. That we are going to think that we have to sacrifice our own best interests. And those are our thoughts, that we think we need to keep these things. And so we think that it's not even for our own best interest, and that we just haven't yet realized how impossible that kind of a demand would be, that God would ask us to give up our own best interests. But that there is this period of overlap that I feel like maybe I'm going through. So that's comforting to know.
Yeah, I mean, does everybody kind of feel like they're either in something like this or in and out? And you know, I think that's a pretty common experience.
I kind of feel that way, you know, and reading this, where what you're on in the Manual of Teachers brings me back to what I read in this morning's lesson, which is, of course, the review lessons. But number 2 in this morning's lesson asks the question. I mean, it says the statement, above all else I want to see. Next to it, this morning I wrote, is it really? I wrote, is it really above all else? In other words, is that what I want above all else? Really? I mean, it used to be, I know that. And there was no doubt, there was no question for years that went on, like, that's all I wanted, right? And then the world crept back in and things started to reappear in my life, and importance on those things I started to feel it in me, right? And so this morning when I asked myself that question, and I said to myself, be honest about that. Like, you know, is that all you want to see? You know, is it above all else? Is it above all else? Are you putting it above all else? Well, you know, sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not. And there's that could be that feeling of overlap. But what I do know today is that I don't have to wait until it puts me to my knees before I make the decision that I do want to see above all else, you know. So, and really the honest answer to that question is, above all else, yes, that is really what I want. So, and that's why I continue to work on it. So that's all. Thank you.
That's beautiful, Tom. And yeah, we know that's what we want. I mean, you know, this is what's so beautiful about this course, that, you know, I really, it never really occurred to me before until I started really studying it, how much, you know, how much I want everyone to feel that way, how much I want everyone to be so comfortable and so happy and so unafraid, and, you know, to come out of the fear that so many people are in, and to come into a place where they can live and act in love. You know, I really want that. I would just love to see the world just filled with happy people. And so I have to know that that's what they want to. There's not a single person in this world that wants to be miserable. You know, nobody really wants to be unhappy, but they all have different ideas of how to get there. And, you know, Jesus has given us, I believe, a very clear way to get there. And it's by looking at and examining our beliefs and our thoughts, and, you know, asking ourselves, you know, is this the world I really want? So, you know, it's, and when we begin to see the world we really want is a world where everybody is happy, then it becomes, I mean, God's will for me is perfect happiness. Lesson 101 becomes our life. Anyway, that's how I see it. Anybody else have any thoughts? And I'll go back and bring the book back up. We can go into the next paragraph if no one else has any thoughts. Yeah, I love that. It says, through this, he learns that where he anticipated grief, he finds a happy lightheartedness instead. or he thought something was asked of him, he finds a gift bestowed upon him. That is such a beautiful feeling when you come into recognition of that as being your experience. So does anybody want to read paragraph 6?
Lynn, because when you read that, it just triggered another thing, like I mentioned earlier. I'm going to try and make this quick because I'm new here and I don't want to take up too much time.
Oh,
But
take your time, Tom. That's what we're here for.
okay. So like I mentioned just before, years ago, I knew without a doubt, and for a long period of years, that this is what I wanted, because I gave up everything, and when I initially gave up everything, I thought I was making a sacrifice. I really did. I believed it. Look what I'm doing. Look at these sacrifices I'm making in order to, better myself. And what I realized is that I gained everything and I lost nothing. So in reality, I didn't sacrifice anything. Like I said, though, since then, and I've lived there for a while, since then, life has crept back in. I got married. We raised our family. We put our kids into college, and I got one more left in high school. So the world came back in, and these things came back in, and but I'm still trying to. So there's that overlap again. But in reality, I do have that knowledge behind me that says you're sacrificing nothing and you're gaining everything. So thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That and you realize that it's been with you the whole time, no matter what. You may not have been actively doing anything with it, and raising your family, having your kids, having your job, going to school. I know you did a lot of stuff, wrote a book, at least one. I don't know if you wrote any more after that, but it does, the time, it just creeps up on you. But that's the beauty of this. There's really no time. And so you're not wasting time, and what does Jesus say? Delay in eternity is impossible, but delay in time, can be tragic. The time we take to come to peace is really, when we look back at it and think, geez, how much time I wasted. I could have been there all along. But it doesn't matter, because in eternity it means nothing at all. So does anybody want to read the next paragraph? Paragraph 6.
Is it okay for me to read?
Sure. Everybody can read.
Number 6. Now comes a period of settling down. This is a quiet time in which the teacher of God rests a while in reasonable peace. Now he consolidates his learning. Now he begins to see the transfer value of what he has learned. Its potential is literally staggering, and the teacher of God is now at the point in his progress at which he sees in it his whole way out. Give up what you do not want and keep what you do. How simple is the obvious, and how easy to do. The teacher of God needs this period of respite. He has not yet come as far as he thinks. Yet when he is ready to go on, he goes with mighty companions beside him. Now he rests a while and gathers them before going on. He will not go on from here alone. Wow. More comfort.
Really?
An even deeper feeling of comfort in this, to go from the overlap and the feeling of sometimes I'm feeling it and sometimes I'm not, to know that coming here, speaking to people, reading it, studying it, I am finding my mighty companions, and that it's very comforting for me to know that I haven't come yet as far as I think, because that does help me to understand why there are still periods where I am falling, and makes it easier for me to forgive myself and to go on with strength, because I know that my mighty companions are beside me. Thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for reading. And yeah, I mean, that's what Jesus is just asking us to do, kind of the Marie Kondo. I don't know if you're aware of that, Marie Kondo, but is a Japanese lady, and I think she's Japanese, and she has a whole thing of it's kind of like a Zen thing where you just go through and you sort through your stuff and say, does this bring me joy or not? And if it doesn't bring me joy, why am I keeping it? And you get rid of all the things that don't absolutely support you and help you in your life. And that's all we're doing here with this is we're more Marie Kondoing our life here, going through it and deciding what is valuable and what is valueless. And it is very nice that all the things that we've learned we carry with us, that it just builds and builds and builds. And this lovely idea that we're gathering our mighty companions together right now, which is all of us. This is why we're here, and welcoming back some who we've known long ago. And it's just amazing to me every week on this class what beauty occurs. Anybody else have any thoughts about this particular paragraph? Here.
I'm gonna say something about mighty companions. Your purpose, a purpose that is shared by all, which there's only two purposes. One is to remember the truth, and one is to kind of get by and survive. Those who share the same purpose are all mighty companions. So purpose provides you with the mighty companions.
That's absolutely true, and that's what we are. We all share the same purpose, and I think that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. When you recognize that everybody wants the same thing, nobody wants to be miserable, and nobody wants anybody else to be miserable. Sometimes you might think you want somebody else to be miserable, but for the most part, we want everybody to be, happy and joyful, and that's as we come together, we join together for that purpose, for happiness. It's not a purpose for we're going to go out and change the world. I want to go preach and teach, or even though this is a manual for teachers, it's really not about going out and being an evangelical or anything. It's about strengthening within yourself the truth of the Christ mind. And in that Christ mind truth, we are joined together, and we do recognize each other, and we do bring each other strength. And just like right now, we share with each other, and everything that everyone shares is helpful to one or the other. And maybe even listening later to this recording, if someone will listen and say, oh my gosh, I didn't think that, or this brought me a new understanding of things. It's because we join together in this purpose. So thank you for bringing that up, Dove. Anybody else have any thoughts about this? Okay, let's just go on then to paragraph 3. Here's Jennifer coming in. All right. So welcome, Jennifer. Hi, sweetie. So does anybody want to read paragraph 7?
I can read that.
Okay, Karen Ann.
The next stage is indeed a period of unsettling. Now must the teacher of God understand that he did not really know what was valuable and what was valueless. All that he really learned so far was that he did not want the valueless and that he did want the valuable. Yet his own sorting out was meaningless in teaching him the difference. The idea of sacrifice, so central to his own thought system, had made it impossible for him to judge. He thought he learned willingness, but now he sees that he does not know what the willingness is for. And now he must attain a state that may remain impossible to reach for a long, long time. He must learn to lay all judgment aside and ask only what he really wants in every circumstance. Were not each step in this direction so heavily reinforced, it would be hard indeed. And what this brings to mind, I guess, is, you know, they always say you don't know until you know that you don't know. You know, it's like you know, I do not know what anything is for. And, you know, it's really funny, like whenever I'm learning something new, like for example, when I first started learning bridge, you know, I got to a point and I'm like, okay, I'm a pretty decent bridge player. I kind of know all, you know, what there is to know. And my friend and I joined an actual bridge club with people that were really, really good. And after like 2 weeks, I said to my friend, oh my God, I don't know anything. I'm like, literally, like, I'm embarrassed to play now. I'm like, even if I studied for, you know, 3 lifetimes, I'm never going to be as good as these people. And that's how it is with like anything else. You know, it's like, at first you think you know, and then it's like you realize, no, you don't know. And I think that, you know, it says the idea of sacrifice, so central to his own thought system, had made it impossible for him to judge. Yeah, I think that, I mean, look at Christianity, the whole thing, you know, all the crux of these religion is sacrifice. You know, for God so loved the world, he gave his only son. And, you know, in the Old Testament, they're constantly, you know, you're going to have to kill your eldest son to, you know, please me or whatever. I mean, it's, and so I think that's ingrained in us, and the unconscious, subconscious guilt, you know, so.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting thought, because yeah, what is sacrifice really? And what, to me, sacrifice, and you're talking about the Old Testament, what was the whole idea of the sacrifice? Like Cain and Abel, the first, you know, children of Adam and Eve, and you know, God wanted them to make a sacrifice to him. So Abel was had animals, and Cain raised you know, vegetables or wheat or something. So Abel brought animals and sacrificed them, and Cain brought vegetables and sacrificed them. And God said, I didn't want vegetables, I just want blood. And so he kind of dissed Cain's sacrifice. And so Cain sacrificed his brother. Said, oh, you want blood? You know, he killed his own brother, because this is what their God demanded. They didn't demand that he kill his own brother, but he demanded blood. And, you know, that's a whole idea that God wants to kill us. You know, the whole idea is that God really has harsh thoughts and wants us to give up things and sacrifice and suffer. The whole idea that God wants us to suffer is, you know, huge throughout the Bible, and even, you know, into Christianity's got a whole story about, you know, if you're not suffering enough, then, you know, you're not good enough to go to heaven. So this whole idea of sacrifice has been with us from the very beginning. And what is it? Well, God never asked for any of those things in reality. Those were just stories that we made up, thinking that, you know, God wanted us to suffer. And so this is a whole turnaround on our thought about what God is and what God wants and what God wills and who we are to God. that's really what we're trying to do here is being able to accept the truth of who we are to God. And so we don't know what is really valuable and what is really valueless. We don't know what we really want and what we really don't want. Just discovering that we're very, very confused. And I thought we were doing really well getting up this far in the book. But no, Jesus is pointing out, you have just really been confused and you're still really confused. You've got to get over that idea of sacrifice, and you have to get over that idea of what you really want, what it's really for. And he says here, and now, sentence 7, and now he must attain a state that may remain impossible to reach for a long, long time. So what is the state that Jesus wants us to attain? And what is it he wants us to attain? Excuse me. He says, he must learn to lay all judgment aside. Oh, there's Jennifer coming back. He must learn to lay all judgment aside and ask only what he really wants in every circumstance. That's a state that Jesus wants us to attain, a state where we have no judgment and we ask, what do we really want in every circumstance? Which, we think we know what we want, and we think we know what's good and bad and whatever. So we have to get over even thinking we know. We have to ask every single time, what do I really want here? Not ask myself, not ask my ego, but ask the Holy Spirit, what do I really want here? And that's a state that is going to take a long time for us to get to, because we're already in a state of, I don't know what I want. I think I want this, and I'm going to, fight for what I want. Or we're just so confused. It's so beautiful, though, that Jesus says we're not each step in this direction so heavily reinforced, it would be hard indeed. So we know we're being helped out in all of this, but that's, how do we attain that state of no judgment and always asking every time, what do I really want? You just have to do it over and over and over. Does anybody have any other thoughts about that, or see it a different way, or maybe a story example?
I just want to say what underlies trust is the idea that I need do nothing. I always refer to that section of the course, chapter 18, section 7, and I think it's at the bottom page, the bottom of page 389. In that paragraph, he says, listen, you can save 100 years of trying to contemplate and meditate and try to figure things out. Just do these 4 words and you'll save 100 years. I need do nothing. And that's what trust is. See, trust is the thought that the ego thinks it has to do something. Well, if I don't do something, how am I going to learn? I mean, I got to learn. I got to go to conferences. And he says, no, that is not what this course is for. This course is for unlearning everything that you've ever learned from this world, which he tells you also in lesson 189. He says, simply do this. Do not bring with you one thought you ever learned from anything in this world. Forget this world, forget this course, and come with holy, empty hands into your God. So trust is, I sometimes give this example, and I don't know, some of you may have heard of, there was a woman, Lisa Natoli, when she was at Endeavor Academy in Wisconsin. She invited, I can't think of her first name, but anyway, she invited this woman who?
Greta.
Greta, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Lynn. She invited Greta to talk about trust and faith and trust. So someone says, well, what is the difference between faith and trust? And she says, there's a world of difference. In faith, if you had to go from one end of a high wire with no safety net under you, and you had to push a wheelbarrow in front of you, you have faith in yourself that somehow you're going to put one foot in front of the other very slowly, and you're going to get yourself from one end of the high wire to the other end. Trust? That's a whole different world. You put yourself into the wheelbarrow. It doesn't matter who's pushing you. Even if you fall, you're safe. You're safe. So trust is to know I don't really need to do anything to defend myself, to protect myself. I am safe when? Now. It doesn't matter about the wheelbarrow or the high wire or the safety net. That who you are is perfectly cared for. That's what total trust is. That's why he says trust would settle every problem now. It settles every problem because who you are as a son of God has no problems. The ego has lots of problems. And it loves problems because it keeps the mind busy. I mean, if it keeps the mind busy, you don't even know you have a mind, and you can choose to hear a different teacher.
Thank you for that, Dove. That was
Okay.
beautiful. Does anybody else have any comments before we go on to paragraphs 8? We might even get through this section tonight. Does anybody want to read paragraph 8? Okay, I will read it. Okay, so Jesus says, and finally, there is a period of achievement. After all this, we finally get to achieve. Finally, there's a period of achievement. It is here that learning is consolidated. Now, what was seen as merely shadows before become solid gains to be counted on in all emergencies, as well as tranquil times. That's when you become this unconsciously competent. You don't even have to think about it. You're just there. Indeed, the tranquility is their result, the outcome of honest learning, consistency of thought, and full transfer. This is the stage of real peace, for here is heaven's state fully reflected. From here, the way to heaven is open and easy. In fact, it is here. Who would go anywhere if peace of mind is already complete? And who would seek to change tranquility for something more desirable? What could be more desirable than this? So finally we come to the place where we don't worry, we don't have to try, we don't have to think, we don't have to do anything. Everything is just here for us. Jesus says it's like you're being carried down a path on a summer day when you decide to, when you learn to decide with the Holy Spirit, with Jesus. And this is what happens. We're learning to think with Jesus. We're learning to think the thoughts of God. We're learning to think, really think, not the ideas and thoughts that roam through our minds like, crazy rampaging teenagers. We're here to really think and to know that the reality of it, all situations. What a beautiful thought. And it can be counted on in all emergencies. You'll never be afraid again. Imagine that, to never be afraid again. Does anybody have any thoughts about that?
Just that it sounds very appealing to never be afraid again. Yeah. And I guess this is what Thomas was saying, that maybe I might have had a moment of that peace, um, where I felt unafraid and I felt protected and safe and everything is fine. But it's like the mountains and the peaks that um, the valleys and the mountaintops that Lynn wrote about in the chat there. So, um, is it, maybe it's not necessary, but sometimes as we go up and down those things, you know, it becomes, it's like a loop and you're going up and down, and it becomes easier, or it comes in faster than it used to. Instead of waiting such a long time, maybe I used to worry about something for 2, 3 days. Maybe now I worry about it for just half an hour. That's how, okay, just trying to put it together. Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's it. It becomes more your way of life. Your life becomes more peaceful and you become less afraid. And it then it's how you walk in the world. This is what's so beautiful about it. Then this is how you walk in the world. You walk in the world as the Christ mind, with confidence and love, and you know that there's nothing that's going to harm you. There's nothing to fear, and everything is here for you. Everything is here. You know, as we always say from lesson 135, what could you not accept if you but knew that everything, all things, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good. If you knew that, you know, if you knew who walks beside you, you would never be afraid. You know, if when Jesus asked us, ask 1,000 times a day, who walks with me? That's really what we're doing. We're recognize who is walking with us, and not just the Christ in the Christ mind, but the Christ in our brothers who are with us also, and our mighty companions. What a beautiful gift that is. Does anybody else have any thoughts about this?
I just love what you're saying here, Lynn. You're speaking directly to me right now, so thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah. Just think about our lives and how joyful it would be just to be always in this state of sublime peace, and how different you would show up for the people in your life. Now, that's what's so beautiful about it, is how differently you show up for the people in your life when you're not in fear. You know they can trust you. They know that you're not going to do anything crazy. You know that you're always going to do everything you can to be as helpful and good to them as they deserve and you want to be. It really makes a huge difference. You know, it's like you become a grown-up person instead of being a silly kid. You know, now you're an adult. That's the way I always see it. It's my grown-up mind. My grown-up mind is working here. All right. Does anybody have anything to say about anything right now? We have a few minutes.
Say about paragraph 8 that if we can remember to stay in our peace, that our tranquility is it says that the tranquility is the result of honest learning, consistency of thought, and full transfer. And that when we are in this state of peace, that is when heaven's state is fully reflected, hence heaven on earth. And I'm going to hold that very close to me this week. Thank you.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for that too. And yeah, it's interesting as we're going on. Once the trust is developed, all the other characteristics of a teacher of God just come to us without even trying. We become what's coming up next, you know, honest and joyful, and you know, all the different tolerant and gentle and joyful and defenseless and generous and patient and faithful, open-minded. Those are all the things that come to us once we have developed trust. But until we develop trust, then we're going to be afraid. And you can't be honest and open when you're afraid. You can't be open-minded when you're afraid. You can't be joyful when you're afraid. Really, the development of trust is the most important thing for any of us, for all of us to work on. And so I'm grateful for this class. I'm grateful for you guys for showing up. Thank you all very much. Anybody have any thoughts before we close? This will be posted on YouTube probably tomorrow.
Lynn, I'd just like to ask, did I not hear somewhere that of the 12 characteristics of God's teachers, that trust is the only one that we can really work on developing? Is
Yep.
that because all of the rest are going to follow along?
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's the only one we really have to work on developing. And once you've developed that, really everything else just comes to you, because it's a natural outcome of the trust.
Yeah, I'd like to just mention that exactly what you just said, Lynn. The idea of fear, which blocks all the other things. If you're fearful, you cannot be joyous. You cannot be tolerant and open-minded. You're always defending something. But notice in the lessons, lesson 47 is the first lesson that he talks about trust. It's the first time trust is mentioned in the actual lesson. God is the strength in which I trust. Now, it isn't that God is separate from you and you're trusting in somebody else's strength. Remember, I and the Father are one is literally saying, I'm trusting in my true strength. I'm not trusting in my puny ego strength, which is, well, I am this body and I have, I have a social security number and I have a bank account and I have this. And no, that is not who you're trusting in. What you're trusting in is what God creates as himself. He extends himself. So I'm trusting in my true strength, not in God's strength, my true wisdom. Now, the next lesson, very big lesson, lesson 48, there is nothing to fear. And then he says, this is a fact. And he very rarely uses the word fact in A Course in Miracles. God is a fact. He uses it once. There's nothing to fear. This is a fact. He uses it twice. I don't know of too many other places where he uses this is a fact. There's nothing to fear. This is a fact unless you insist on being invested in illusions. So it's only our own thoughts that actually weaken us. Our own thoughts weaken us, but if we're trusting in our true strength as God created, there's nothing to fear. I mean, it's not like God puts a safety net over you, so there's nothing to fear. I'm trusting in who I truly am, not what I think I am. I mean, my thought on thinking, all thinking from the ego is stinking thinking. And the ego says, well, how can I not fear? I mean, look at this and look at that. He's always looking outside of you. But when you go within and look at your true strength, there is nothing to fear. Nothing in this world can actually touch the Son of God. That's called the peace of God. With the peace of God, you have immunity, literally invulnerability. I just wanted to share that. Thank you so much, everyone. And Lynn, thank you so much for calling me. Otherwise, I would have been late or not even been here.
I know. I'm like, where is he? So I say,
Dove.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Dove, and thank you. That was what you just said, right on point. I needed that. So thank you. Good to see you. And Lynn, good to see you, and everyone else who I am just meeting tonight. Good to see you all. I'm putting this on my calendar, so I'll see you next Thursday.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, everybody who's here. It's good to see you all. And every week it seems like somebody different, so I love it. But you know, same core people. So I like that. I like everybody sharing, and you know, we're all equal here. So I love that very much. All right, thank you guys. Love you. See you next week, and we'll start with the next characteristic of a teacher of God, which is honesty. That'll be, don't get scared. Oh, he said, well, I'm going to be honest with you. Oh no, please, what are you going to say? Or please be
Thanks,
honest with
Lynn.
me. Oh no.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, you guys. Love you
Thank
all.
you. Good night.
Thank you,
Night.
everyone.
Bye.